Alright guys, today we're playing Battlefield 5 in 2025. It's been 7 years now since the release of the game, and it launched to much controversy related to obviously the reveal trailer with the woman with the robot arm, and it was set in World War II, and people were like, what the hell is this game trying to be? People felt like they were trying way too hard to be politically correct and to cater to certain demographics that don't even play this game in the first place, like having women be a huge part of World War II, like in combat, was not authentic to the actual setting that the game was trying to take place in. So there's a lot of background noise and a lot of political tension when it came to this game. But there was also a lot of controversy in regards to the gameplay itself. People weren't a fan of the map design. They didn't like how they didn't even have iconic World War II battles in any of the maps. It was like lesser known conflicts that no one knew about, and I guess that was kind of the whole point of it, but it was still just like weird, a lot of the choices that they made. And there was also a lack of consistency in terms of the gunplay and overall gameplay experience. They started off making the TTK fast, and then they decided to slow it down a lot and changing the gameplay fundamentally like 6 months into the game's life cycle, and that backfired. It lost a shit ton of players because of that, so then they went back and reverted it to the way it was. So they kept making so many different changes over the game's life cycle, and it launched with very little content that eventually it got better, but it never really fully reached its potential, Battlefield 5. Because it was around 2019, 2020, when the last update for this game was released, and their whole reason for that was that, yeah, we're not going to continue supporting this game because we need to work on Battlefield 2042, and we all know how that turned out. Yeah. But now it's been 7 years, and we can look back at this game, especially with 2042 having come out after that, and after everything that happened with that game, there was a lot of newfound love and appreciation for Battlefield 5 that had not existed before. It was because Battlefield 2042 was so horrible that people just praised Battlefield 5 by default because it did pretty much everything better than 2042. From the gunplay, it was vastly superior to 2042. Even the maps were kind of underwhelming, but 2042 maps were even worse, so it was kind of like, oh man, I wish we appreciated what we had back in the day. But no, even Battlefield 5 compared to Battlefield 1 was very underwhelming. It didn't really expand upon the Battlefield gameplay. It was just a World War II retexture of Battlefield 1 with just less fun gameplay, essentially. That being said, though, there were a couple of good things that they added in, like the ability to build sandbags and actually like repair the walls that were destroyed, that for some reason, like, it seemed like a huge addition, and we never seen it again. They didn't add it in 2042. Who knows if they're gonna have that in the next Battlefield game that's supposed to come out next year? I don't know, but that was like the one really good thing that they added in Battlefield 5, and of course, EA Dice Logic, we never saw it again. But despite all the flaws and the controversies over the life cycle of this game, I think it still holds a lot of value in 2025. Not just because it's better than the most recent game in the series, but because of that, you actually have a lot of players online. Last time I checked the Steam charts, it said there were over 20,000 concurrent players, and of course there's even more people playing the game that don't have the Steam version, but they have the EA version of the game, like on the EA app, and you also have a lot of players on PlayStation and Xbox. So regardless of which platform you choose, you can't go wrong. As far as finding matches, it's not just Conquest, you have Team Deathmatch, Breakthrough, you have Operations, so many different game modes that you can choose from that gives you a lot of variety that if you're a new player, you're going to end up putting a lot of time and energy into this game. And it doesn't matter which region you live in, because I look at the server browser, I see plenty of North American servers and European servers, which is typical. But then I also see a lot of Japanese servers. I see Brazilian servers. I see Australian servers. So that's like the great thing, is that for your average game that's 7 years old, and especially a franchise like Battlefield that did have a game that came out after this one, it still remarkably holds up. Not just in terms of the player base itself, like being able to find a lot of players online, but also the actual gunplay feels like the smoothest you can get out of any FPS. Like, it is so satisfying, and the graphics are also beautiful. Like, the game looks great. It runs great. It plays great for the most part. It just needed some more life in it. It needed more content in order to fully be considered a great Battlefield game, in my opinion. As well as a more cohesive art direction and setting. Like, it's World War II, but does it really feel like World War II? Your average person would say absolutely not. Like, anyone who's played a World War II shooter before is like, no, this ain't it, Chief. It's not. So if you're like a World War II fanatic, this is definitely not the game for you. But if you're a straight-up Battlefield fan, or just like having these large maps and large-scale warfare, and that's your type of thing, then you will certainly enjoy this game in 2025. I've seen people post online every now and then about the cheating problem that this game has, and that it's been getting worse, and there's a problem with that, especially on PC. People don't really talk about cheaters on PlayStation and Xbox, but I could say, from my experience, I never really encountered any of them, ever. I mean, maybe I just am too stupid to realize that I'm always getting shot by cheaters, but it doesn't really seem that way. Like, it seems like it's fine, and everything seems legit to me. So I'm not going to say that that's much of a consideration. And plus, if the game was really ruined by cheaters, you wouldn't have over 20,000 players online on the Steam version alone, right? Battlefield 1 actually has more players than that. It says over 25,000 players on Steam. So I think that says a lot about Battlefield 1 and how great that game has held up as well. It's been almost a decade since that game's release. And I think that's just overall, like, it's so much better than Battlefield 5 in pretty much every single category, from the weapons to the maps to the atmosphere, everything put together, that if you have to choose between Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, I would easily go with Battlefield 1. But if you've played Battlefield 1, you put countless hours into it, and you never played Battlefield 5, then in that case, I would recommend you try Battlefield 5, because at least it's a little bit different and is kind of a fresh experience for you. So, overall, I would say Battlefield 5 is a decent game to play in 2025. Certainly not the best, not the top Battlefield game that I would play this year. I definitely put a lot more time into Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4, even Battlefield 3 at this point, but to each their own. I know this game has a lot of fans, and it's kind of one of those things where you have to try for yourself and not take my opinion too seriously. So, yeah, 7 years later, still going strong. A lot of players online.